Start living. 199 Final thoughts. 203. Introduction. I know before you open to this page you saw the title of the book already. And you might be wondering if everyone can become prominent? Especially if you can become prominent? This is a question I once asked myself also. So, you are not alone. Surprisingly, the answer to the question above is quite simple and easy. You only have to become a problem solver. But the problem with most people is that they would rather do things the hard way. Let me share this story with you. Many years ago in a small Zazura village, a farmer had the misfortune of owing a large sum of money to a village moneylender. The moneylender, who was old and ugly, fancied the farmer's young beautiful daughter. So the moneylender proposed a bargain. He said he would forego the farmer's debt if he could marry his daughter. Both the farmer and his daughter were horrified by the proposal. So the cunning moneylender suggested that they let Providence decide the matter. He told them that he would put a black pebble and a white pebble into an empty money bag. Then the girl would have to pick one pebble from the bag. 1. If she picked the black pebble, she would become his wife and her father's debt would be forgiven. 2. If she picked the white pebble, she need not marry him, and her father's debt would still be forgiven. 3. But if she refused to pick a pebble, her father would be thrown into jail. They were standing on a pebble-strewn path in the farmer's field. As they talked, the moneylender bent over to pick up 2 pebbles. As he picked them up, the sharp-eyed damsel/girl noticed that he had picked up 2 black pebbles and put them into the bag. He then asked the girl to pick a pebble from the bag. Now, imagine that you were standing in the field. What would you have done if you were the girl? If you had to advise her, what would you have told her? Careful analysis would produce 3 possibilities. 1. The girl should refuse to take a pebble. 2. The girl should show that there were 2 black pebbles in the bag and expose the moneylender as a cheat. 3. The girl should pick a black pebble and sacrifice herself in order to save her father from his debt and imprisonment. Take a moment to ponder over the story. What the girl really did, well, here is what she did. The girl put her hand into the money bag and drew out a pebble. Without looking at it, she introduction. Fumbled and let it fall onto the pebble-strewn path, where it immediately became lost among all the other pebbles. "Oh, how clumsy of me," she said. "But never mind, if you look into the bag for the one that is left, you will be able to tell which pebble I picked." Since the remaining pebble is black, it must be assumed that she had picked the white one. And since the moneylender dared not admit his dishonesty, the girl changed what seemed an impossible situation into an extremely advantageous one. My dear friend, most complex problems do have a solution. It is only that we don't attempt to think about solving these problems. Come to think of it, we are surrounded with a lot of problems, and those who become prominent are the ones who think about solving these problems and go ahead to take action on it. Take a look at these examples. David became prominent because he killed Goliath. Jesus became prominent because he came to extend God's kingdom on earth. Thomas Edison became prominent because the electric bulb can now last long hours. Bill Gates became prominent because of personal computers. Nelson Mandela became prominent because he fought injustice and apartheid. Think of any prominent individual you know, and you can point out a problem that they have committed themselves to solve. Here comes the hard part. While most people want a problem-free life, the girl in the story above didn't run away from the problem. Instead, she came up with a solution. While most Israelites ran away from Goliath, including King Saul, David ran towards the problem and solved it. While most of the technology giants before Bill Gates were making cumbersome computers, Bill Gates gave life to personal computers. The end result, they all became prominent. Thanks to the problem they solved. This book is set out to address your attitude to problems. It is set out to give you a different worldview about problems, because we've been taught to believe that problems are bad. But I've come to tell you that they aren't. They are the shortcuts to your prominence. This book is about the simple things that almost anyone can do to become a problem solver. And that's why I said earlier on that the answer is simple and easy. Everyone can become prominent. After reading this book, you will know that you have the ability to become prominent, very significant and relevant to your world if you want to. Sunday Adelaja for the love of God, church, and nation. Chapter 1: The right attitude to problems. According to UNICEF, 22,000 children die each day due to poverty. And they die quietly in some of the poorest villages on earth, far removed from the scrutiny and the conscience of the world. Around 27 to 28% of all children in developing countries are estimated to be underweight or stunted. The two regions that account for the bulk of the deficit are South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Based on enrollment data, about 72 million children of primary school age in the developing world were not in school in 2005, 57% of them were girls. Nearly a billion people entered the 21st century unable to read a book or sign their names. Less than 1% of what the world spent every year on weapons was needed to put every child into school by the year 2000, and yet it did not happen. Infectious diseases continue to blight the lives of the poor across the world. An estimated 40 million people are living with HIV/AIDS, with 3 million deaths in 2004. Every year there are 350 to 500 million cases of malaria, with 1 million fatalities. Africa accounts for 90% of malarial deaths, and African children account for over 80% of malaria victims worldwide. The number of children in the world is roughly 2.2 billion. The number of children in poverty is about 1 billion, that is every second child. Shelter, safe water and health for the 1.9 billion children from the developing world. There are 640 million without adequate shelter, 1 in 3, 400 million with no access to safe water, 1 in 5, 270 million with no access to health services, 1 in 7 children out of education worldwide, 121 million. All these data given attest to the fact that our world revolves around problems. And you are not immune to problems. There are a lot of problems, and everywhere you turn is one problem or the other. In fact, it has become a norm for our TV stations and various media outlets around the world to give reports on different problems in the globe. I guess a day that such is not reported will be regarded as abnormal. This has become an understatement because this generation of ours is plagued with so many problems that some have even given up on a way out. Yet, I titled this book Problems: Your Shortcut to Prominence. It's an irony, right? Yes, it might be, but it is very true. Your shortcut to prominence in life is tied to the problem you've decided to resolve. How do I know this? Wait, and let me show you. You are not immune to problems. All of us individually and collectively regularly face problems in our daily lives. Some of these problems could be as little or as insignificant as what clothes to put on or what to eat. This could also be as big as how will the world find a cure to a particular disease, like the recent Ebola virus outbreak in West Africa that killed about 11,325 out of the 28,652 total cases recorded by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention? Or who will feed the 1 billion hungry children in the world? Many people pray to be kept out of unexpected problems. Some people pray to be able to confront and overcome them. Toba Beta. Over the years, our attitudes towards these problems have defined us as individuals and collectively as a society. Attitudes to problems vary from person to person. Some run away from problems. Some look for problems. Some hide from problems. Some look for ways of resolving problems. Some succumb to problems. But let the truth be told, problems are our shortcuts to prominence. As such, you have to pray to be able to confront and overcome problems, instead of praying to be kept out of unexpected problems. Without much ado, in this book, permit me to present my case to you that problems indeed are your shortcuts to prominence. A careful study of the history of humanity would stand as a monumental testimony to this fact. This will take us to the biblical story of a young man named Joseph. His father's name is Jacob, and they lived in Canaan from where his grandfather was from. Joseph, the dreamer. Joseph was 17 years old enough to drive a car these days, and he had 11 brothers, and only had one brother younger than him. Can you imagine having 11 brothers to play with or fight with? Because Joseph was one of the youngest sons, his father spent more time with him, and he became very special to him. So Jacob had a special robe made for Joseph. They didn't have jackets back then, so this was a very special jacket. It was very beautiful and had every color you could imagine in it. All of Joseph's older brothers saw this, and they got very jealous. The word jealous means that Joseph's brothers disliked him because they thought his father liked him more, and because he got the special coat. They got so jealous they couldn't even say a kind word to him. One day Joseph had a dream, and he went to go tell his brothers. He said, "Guess what? Last night I had a strange dream. We were tying up bunches of grain out in the field when suddenly my bunch stood up, while all of yours gathered around and bowed to me." The brothers looked at each other in disgust, but Joseph continued. "Then I had another dream that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to me." "Who do you think you are?" The brothers said. "Do you think that you are better than all of us? Do you think that we would ever bow down to you?" This made the brothers dislike Joseph even more. Little did they know that the dream was a pointer to the problems he was born to solve. When he told his father about his dreams, he said, "Those are strange dreams." But he thought carefully about what Joseph had told him. A few days later, Joseph's father asked him to check on his brothers. They were in the fields quite a distance away. So Joseph went to find them. When the brothers saw Joseph in the distance, they made a plan to kill him. But when Reuben, Joseph's oldest brother, heard this, he said, "Let's not kill him, just throw him in a well out here in the field." He said this because he was secretly planning to come back and rescue Joseph when the other brothers had left. So when Joseph came to them, they took off his beautiful robe, and they threw him in an empty well. A little while later, a group of people came by that were wanting to sell some things in Egypt. One of the brothers spoke up, "Why don't we sell him to these people? This way we never have to see him again, and we don't have to kill him." The other brothers liked this idea, so they sold him to the people who were going to Egypt. Unfortunately, Reuben had been working and hadn't seen what happened. When he returned to the well, he noticed that Joseph was gone. He had been sold to an important man named Potiphar, an assistant to the Pharaoh of Egypt. The rest of the brothers took Joseph's beautiful robe and dipped it in animal blood and took it back to their father. When the father saw this, he cried, "Some animal has killed my son." And he cried for many days, so much that nobody could comfort him. Have a positive attitude. Joseph had a positive attitude to every challenge that came his way, and this made him to overcome all the problems that he encountered in Potiphar's house, the jail, and eventually, the national problem. This is the attitude that solves problem instead of running away from problems. This is the attitude that takes responsibility to solve societal problems. If you have a positive attitude and constantly strive to give your best effort, eventually you will overcome your immediate problems and find you are ready for greater challenges. Pat Riley. He had started out as a slave, but the Lord was with Joseph, and he helped him do everything right. So Potiphar made him his helper and put him in charge of everything that he owned. The problem came when Potiphar's wife lied about Joseph to her husband, so Potiphar had Joseph put into jail. The Lord was still with Joseph in jail, and the warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. He never worried because the Lord was with Joseph and helped him do everything right. After Joseph had been in jail for some time, a cupbearer and baker to Pharaoh had been sent there. One night each of them had a dream, and Joseph interpreted their dreams. They told their dreams to Joseph, and he told the cupbearer that he would soon be let out of jail. "Please tell Pharaoh about me and ask him to get me out of here," Joseph said. When the cupbearer was freed, he forgot about what Joseph did. So Joseph stayed in jail for 2 more years. Until one day, Pharaoh had a dream, and nobody could explain it to him. The cupbearer then remembered what Joseph had done for him, and Joseph was brought to Pharaoh. If you pay careful attention here, you will discover that the problem Joseph solved some time ago for the cupbearer has now brought him to the presence of the king. Please don't miss out on a very important point here. Joseph already solved a problem for someone 2 years ago before he was recommended. Don't also miss out on the fact that when they sent for him from the palace, they did not bring him there to come and warm the chair. It was because there was a problem nobody else could solve. That was why they brought Joseph into the palace. From slavery to prime minister, the problem suggests the solution. Tom Paine. Can you understand dreams? Pharaoh asked. I can't, but God helps me, Joseph replied. After Pharaoh had told him his dream, Joseph explained, God is warning you. There will be 7 years when nothing will grow, and there won't be any food for anyone. What can I do? Pharaoh asked. God has shown you what to do. There will be 7 years before the bad years that will be very good. So good that there will be extra food for everyone. So you should save a little bit of each year's harvest, that way you will have enough to get you through the bad years. Joseph said. Problems are only opportunities with thorns on them. Hugh Miller. The problem then was the dream that the king needed someone to interpret for him. The solution to this same problem became the opportunity that turned the economic prospects of the nation around. Pharaoh believed all that Joseph told him and put him in charge of all the land of Egypt. Thanks to the problem he solved. 41 And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. 42 And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. 43 And he made him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. 44 And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Genesis 41:41-44, KJV. People came from all countries to buy grain from Joseph, because the whole world was in need of food. Some of those people were Joseph's brothers. When his brothers came, Joseph recognized them, but they did not know who he was. It had been over 10 years since they had seen him. The brothers all bowed to him because he was an important person, just as he dreamed they would at the beginning. In case you have forgotten, he once had a dream that 11 stars, the moon, and the sun bowed down to him. Nevertheless, this dream only came to reality because of the problem he solved. I know you've got quite a number of brilliant dreams, but let me reiterate it. The difference between your dream and the realization of such dreams is the problems you solved along the way. It is the challenges you face and overcome. It is the issues you will have to deal with. Tell me, how else would Joseph have come to prominence if not through problems? If he had relied on his own might and on his own power and work alone, would he have come to prominence? If not because he has solved a problem, I don't see any how Joseph could have been so prominent. From slavery to the prime minister in just 24 hours? Little wonder I titled this book, Problems Your Shortcut to Prominence. Resolving problems will propel you faster than you ever imagine. The problems you solve determines your significance. After a few meetings with his brothers, he could not keep it in any longer, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father alive? But his brothers couldn't answer him because they were afraid. Then Joseph said, Come here. I am your brother, the one you sold. Do not worry, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me, because God has put me here to save people from starving. So his father, his brothers, and their families came to live in Egypt with Joseph, and they had all the food they needed. It is the problem that you solve that determines your significance. It is the problem that you have dedicated your life to resolve that determines your prominence. Now, I am not talking about the problems that you have in your life personally. I am not talking about your problems. I am talking about the problem that you have decided to resolve. I am talking about problems, issues, situations and circumstances that you have decided to take head on and find answers to. I am talking about circumstances, problems, issues, and challenges that you have decided to bring solutions or answers to. It is the problems that you find answers to that determine your prominence. It is the problem that you have dedicated your life to provide an answer to that determines your significance in life. Your significance is hidden in the answers to problems that you decide to resolve. Show me anyone that is prominent, and I'll show you the problems they've dedicated their life to resolve. You will only prosper to the degree you've been able to add value to other people's life. I challenge you, become a problem solver. If you sell food, you are solving the hunger problem. If you sell water, you are solving the problem of thirst. If you sell clothes, you are solving the problem of nakedness. If you sell or rent houses, you are solving the problem of lack of shelter. If you drive a taxi or a bus, you are solving the transportation problem. If you run a school, you are solving the ignorance problem. Whatever services you are rendering, you are solving a problem or meeting the needs of others. Where are the Josephs? The world is waiting for the Josephs. You are here for resolving problems. You are here for solutions. You are not a mistake. You are not an afterthought. Who knows? You might be the Joseph that will resolve the hunger problem. Who knows? You might be the Joseph that will save this world from deadly diseases. Who can tell if you are the one to save our educational system? Expect problems and eat them for breakfast. Alfred A. Montepert. Life is governed by laws and principles, and there is no way around this daunting truth. A very common example is the law of gravity, which literally means that everything that goes up will surely come down. Similarly, those that expect and look for problems to resolve can never live a life of mediocrity. Therefore, those that look for ways of resolving problems will eventually become prominent. Those that expect problems and eat them like bread will never leave this world unnoticed. Your shortest route to prominence and a life of significance is problem resolution. It is the answers you give to the questions in your society that determines your significance. As I close this chapter, I'd like you to brood over these thoughts. You are not here for decoration. You are not a mistake. Neither are you an afterthought. I don't care what circumstances surround your birth, or growing up like the story of Joseph you just read. You are here as a solution. You are a problem solver. Every problem is a gift. Without problems, we would not grow. Anthony Robbins. Without the problems Joseph solved, I don't see him becoming the prime minister. It was God's gift and seed of growth planted along his path in life. You will definitely encounter problems every now and then, because our world revolves around problems. But only the right attitude that seeks to solve these problems will guarantee your prominence. In the next chapter, I'll be sharing with you a good number of examples of people who have become prominent, thanks to the problems they solved. They were, and some are still, the Josephs of this generation. Nuggets. I know you've got quite a number of brilliant dreams, but let me reiterate it. The difference between your dream and the realization of such dreams is the problems you solved along the way. It is the problem that you solve that determines your significance. It is the problem that you have dedicated your life to resolve. That determines your prominence. Show me anyone that is prominent, and I'll show you the problems they've dedicated their life to resolve. You will only prosper to the degree you've been able to add value to other people's life. You are here for resolving problems. You are here for solutions. You are not a mistake. You are not an afterthought. Those that expect and look for problems to resolve can never live a life of mediocrity. Your shortest route to prominence and a life of significance is problem resolution. It is the answers you give to the questions in your society that determines your significance. Chapter 2. Be a Joseph. Be a problem solver. Do you know anyone that is prominent around you? Or do you know anyone in your life, in the Bible or in history? Show me anyone that is prominent, and I will prove to you that they are problem solvers. Show me any true leader, and I will show you a man that has mastered the art of problem resolution. There is a shortcut to prominence. Some people are trying to achieve prominence through their hard work alone. Some others are trying to achieve prominence through faithfulness, by being faithful to one thing or the other that they are doing. A good number of people also pray to be great. But I tell you this, that there is actually a shortcut to prominence. And unless your hard work or faithfulness is directed to resolving problems, you might never be prominent. Unless you dedicate your life to resolving problems, we might never remember you. Unless you are skillful at finding answers, you are not ready for greatness. The only shortcut to prominence is problems. Problem is a fast track to prominence, greatness, and a life of significance. Your life will only be worth celebrating if you dedicate it to solving problems. Here comes the problem solvers. A good number of the people you will be reading about in this chapter are people you already know. They are the Josephs of their generation. They are people who have dedicated their lives to solving the daunting problems in their society. They are not people that run away from problems. They are people with the right attitude to problems. They don't hide from problems. They are problem solvers. They are men and women of solutions. And guess what? That's the only reason why you know them, or you've heard of them. Joseph became skillful at interpreting dreams. The rest of the story you already know. Similarly, you are going to be reading about men and women who moved from rags to riches, thanks to the problems they solved. You will be reading about men who went from nothing to become prominent in the world. You will be reading about women who have immortalized themselves, thanks to the problems they solved. Stay tuned. Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. I don't want to be thought of as the girl who was shot by the Taliban, but the girl who fought for education. This is the cause to which I want to devote my life. Malala Yousafzai. As a young girl, Malala Yousafzai defied the Taliban in Pakistan and demanded that girls be allowed to receive an education. She was shot in the head by a Taliban gunman in 2012, but survived and went on to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala was born on July 12, 1997 in Mingora, a town in the Swat district of northwest Pakistan. Her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, named her after Malalai, a Pashtun heroine. Ziauddin, who has always loved learning, ran a school in Swat adjacent to the family's home. He was known as an advocate for education in Pakistan, which has the second highest number of out-of-school children in the world, and became an outspoken opponent of Taliban efforts to restrict education and stop girls from going to school. I told myself, Malala, you have already faced death. This is your second life. Don't be afraid. If you are afraid, you can't move forward. Malala Yousafzai. Malala and her father received death threats, but continued to speak out for the right to education. Malala became a global advocate for the millions of girls being denied a formal education because of social, economic, legal, and political factors. In 2013, Malala and Ziauddin co-founded the Malala Fund to bring awareness to the social and economic impact of girls' education and to empower girls to raise their voices, to unlock their potential, and to demand change. Notably, the Malala Fund provides funding to the Center for Girls' Education, CGE, in northern Nigeria to support hundreds of in- and out-of-school girls through learning clubs held in spaces supplied by the local community. In these safe spaces led by a local mentor, groups of girls are taught reading, writing, math, and life and livelihood skills. With guns, you can kill terrorists. With education, you can kill terrorism. Malala Yousafzai. Funding also supports CGE's provision of scholarships to cover school-related expenses for girls in secondary school. The program is reducing social and economic barriers to girls' education, helping to delay marriage, and expanding the critical years in which girls can acquire social assets and skills that will serve them as adults. Malala accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on December 10, 2014 with Indian children's rights and education advocate Kailash Satyarthi. Malala contributed her entire prize money of more than $500,000 to financing the creation of a secondary school for girls in Pakistan. If people were silent, nothing would change. Malala Yousafzai. Bill Gates, Microsoft co-founder, the man who had a vision for every household to own a personal computer, and he is transforming the world through his foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates is a prominent American entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist with a terrific career in the development of software for personal computers. He is the co-founder of Microsoft Corporation, one of the most recognized brands in the computer industry. Nearly every computer has at least one Microsoft product installed. It's no longer news that he changed the way we use and relate to personal computers today. Bill Gates' development of software and programs has been his contribution to the revolution of computers and computer science. Microsoft's slogan was "In the world." This led him to partner with several computer companies and created simple operating system and software that would be easy for everyone in the world to use. In my honest opinion, the greatest contribution of Bill Gates to the world is providing broad economic opportunities to everyone across the world using computers. Besides that, when computers combined with the internet, it greatly increased educational opportunities for all learners of all ages across the world, and businesses thrived more than we could ever imagine. This is also a very powerful healthcare tool in connecting doctors with patients, and patients with the required medical knowledge in internet. These problems solved by the software Bill Gates produced made not only him very rich, a lot of others are now entrepreneurs online, all because a man had a vision to make every household own a computer. More importantly, it gave him the money to solve bigger problems. It is the problem that you solve that will bring money to solve other problems. Wherever there is a problem, there is money. Coupled with his hard work, he has achieved not only the prosperity of the company, but also the title of one of the richest person on earth. Also, while being a student, Gates got inspired by the philanthropic work of John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. We are all created equal in the virtual world, and we can use this equality to help address some of the sociological problems that society has yet to solve in the physical world. Bill Gates. Since the end of June 2008, Gates has retired from an active management at Microsoft. He is putting all his efforts into Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which the main objective is to support projects in education and healthcare. This foundation has partnered with the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, made up of 4 spearheading organizations like the World Health Organization, WHO, Rotary International, United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. Together, they have successfully reduced polio's outbreak by 99%, and they are on course to eradicate it completely. Currently, polio has been completely eradicated from India, where just barely a few years ago they had the worst outbreak, recording as much as 150,000 cases per year. Today, CDC Global Health reports that every country of the world is now polio-free save for 2: Pakistan and Afghanistan. However, the fight is still ongoing to annihilate this disease completely. On January 5, 2015, Bill Gates presented an ingenious machine called Omniprocessor that turns feces into clean drinking water. This installation will help 2.5 billion people in the world suffering from a shortage of drinking water. It was developed by Janicki Engineering Company, that is headed by CEO Peter Janicki and funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates noted that the Omniprocessor could handle waste from 100,000 people, producing up to 86,000 liters of drinking water per day, and a net 250 kilowatts of electricity. If you add a little to a little and do this often enough, soon it will become great. Hesiod. A lot of things may be said about Gates, they may be both positive and negative. However, one thing is clear: not to recognize his influence is impossible. Definitely, the world cannot close their eyes to these problems that he is solving. According to the Ithaca Journal, the foundation has helped lower the number of childhood deaths from 10 million in 2000 to about 6 million today. His goal is to reduce that further to 2 million, he said. He also expressed optimism that research into diseases that ravage the poorer parts of the world, malaria, cholera, tuberculosis, and others, will continue to be funded. George Washington Carver, one of the greatest inventors that ever lived, he transformed the Southern American economy by inventing over 100 products from peanuts alone. George Washington Carver was a prominent African American scientist and inventor. Carver is best known for the many uses he devised for the peanut. He died in 1943. George Washington Carver was born into slavery in Diamond, Missouri, around 1864. Carver went on to become one of the most prominent scientists and inventors of his time, as well as a teacher at the Tuskegee Institute. Carver devised over 100 products using one major crop, the peanut, including dyes, plastics, and gasoline. Carver's work at Tuskegee included groundbreaking research on plant biology that brought him to national prominence. Many of these early experiments focused on the development of new uses for crops such as peanuts, sweet potatoes, soybeans, and pecans. The hundreds of products he invented included plastics, paints, dyes, and even a kind of gasoline. He wanted poor farmers to grow alternative crops both as a source of their own food and as a source of other products to improve their quality of life. An agricultural monoculture of cotton depleted the soil, and in the early 20th century the boll weevil destroyed much of the cotton crop. More so, immediately after the slave trade was abolished, there were no slaves to work on the farm. Carver's work on peanuts was intended to provide an alternative crop, and this actually revamped the economy of the southern United States. Carver's prominence as a scientific expert made him one of the most famous African Americans, and one of the best-known African American intellectuals of his time. President Theodore Roosevelt admired his work and sought his advice on agricultural matters in the United States. When you can do the common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. George Washington Carver. Carver appeared on U.S. commemorative postal stamps in 1948 and 1998, as well as a commemorative half-dollar coin minted between 1951 and 1954. Numerous schools bear his name, as do 2 United States military vessels. Carver's life has come to symbolize the transformative potential of education, even for those born into the most unfortunate and difficult of circumstances. He served as an example of the importance of hard work, a positive attitude, and a good education. Carver's epitaph reads, "He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world." No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving behind him distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. George Washington Carver. Nelson Mandela, 1918 to 2013, popularly described as a world citizen. He is the man that fought for the freedom of the black race in southern Africa, sacrificing most of his adult life in the process. We must use time wisely and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela became known and respected all over the world as a symbol of the struggle against apartheid and all forms of racism, the icon and the hero of African liberation. Mandela, or Madiba, as he was affectionately known, has been called a freedom fighter, a great man, South Africa's favorite son, a global icon, and a legend, among countless other names. He has been an activist, a political prisoner, South Africa's first democratically elected president, an international peacemaker and statesman, and a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He is the most honored political prisoner in history, having served a prison term for 27 years from 1963 to 1990. But prison bars could not prevent him from continuing to inspire his people to struggle and sacrifice for their liberation. "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Nelson Mandela. In the winter of 1964, Nelson Mandela arrived on Robben Island, where he would spend 18 of his 27 prison years. Confined to a small cell, the floor his bed, a bucket for a toilet, he was forced to do hard labor in a quarry. He was allowed one visitor a year for 30 minutes. He could write and receive one letter every 6 months. But Robben Island became the crucible which transformed him. Through his intelligence, charm, and dignified defiance, Mandela eventually bent even the most brutal prison officials to his will, assumed leadership over his jailed comrades, and became the master of his own prison. He emerged from it the mature leader who would fight and win the great political battles that would create a new democratic South Africa. Especially for those of us who lived in single cells, you had the time to sit down and think, and we discovered that sitting down just to think is one of the best ways of keeping yourself fresh and able to address the problems facing you, and you had the opportunity, also, of examining your past. Nelson Mandela. He has received prestigious international awards, the freedom of many cities, and honorary degrees from several universities. Musicians have been inspired to compose songs and music in his honor. Major international art exhibits have been dedicated to him, and some of the most prominent writers have contributed to books for him and about him. Even an atomic particle has been named after him. Mandela is a universal symbol of freedom and reconciliation, an icon representing the triumph of the human spirit. During his lifetime, he not only dedicated himself to the struggle of the African people, but with his humility and his spirit of forgiveness, he captured hearts and inspired people all over the world. Nelson Mandela never wavered in his devotion to democracy, equality, and learning. Despite terrible provocation, he never answered racism with racism. His life is an inspiration to all who are oppressed and deprived, and to all who are opposed to oppression and deprivation. Thomas Edison, 1847 to 1931. Thanks to Thomas Edison, the electric bulb in your room right now can last for long hours. Inventor Thomas Edison created such great innovations as the practical incandescent electric light bulb and the phonograph. A savvy businessman, he held more than 1,000 patents for his inventions. Thomas Edison rose from humble beginnings to work as an inventor of major technology. Setting up a lab in Menlo Park, some of the products he developed included the telegraph, phonograph, the first commercially practical incandescent electric light bulb, alkaline storage batteries, and kinetograph, a camera for motion pictures. Edison attended public school for a total of 12 weeks. A hyperactive child, prone to distraction, he was deemed difficult by his teacher. His mother quickly pulled him from school and taught him at home. At age 11, he showed a voracious appetite for knowledge, reading books on a wide range of subjects. In this wide-open curriculum, Edison developed a process for self-education and learning independently that would serve him throughout his life. The phonograph was the first machine that could record the sound of someone's voice and play it back. In 1877, Edison recorded the first words on a piece of tin foil. He recited the nursery rhyme "Mary Had a Little Lamb," and the phonograph played the words back to him. This was invented by a man whose hearing was so poor that he thought of himself as deaf. Starting in 1878, Edison and the muckers worked on one of his greatest achievements. The electric light system was more than just the incandescent lamp or light bulb. Edison also designed a system of power plants that make the electrical power and the wiring that brings it to people's homes. Imagine all the things you plug in. What would your life be like without them? A year later, Edison built a laboratory in West Orange that was 10 times larger than the one in Menlo Park. In fact, it was one of the largest laboratories in the world, almost as famous as Edison himself. Well into the night, laboratory buildings glowed with electric light while the wizard and his muckers turned Edison's dreams into inventions. Once, the chief mucker worked for 3 days straight, taking only short naps. Edison earned half of his 1,093 patents in West Orange. But Edison did more than inventing. Here Edison could think of ways to make a better phonograph, for example, build it with his muckers, have them test it, and make it work, then manufacture it in the factories that surrounded his laboratory. This improved phonograph could then be sold throughout the world. Not only did Edison improve the phonograph several times, but he also worked on X-rays, storage batteries, and the first talking doll. At West Orange, he also worked on one of his greatest ideas, motion pictures or movies. The inventions made here changed the way we live even today. He worked here until his death on October 18, 1931, at the age of 84. By that time, everyone had heard of the wizard and looked up to him. The whole world called him a genius. But he knew that having a good idea was not enough. It takes hard work to make dreams into reality. That is why Edison liked to say, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. The world is in need of Josephs. As I close this chapter, I'd like to repeat this quote by Nelson Mandela, in case you did not pay close attention to it at first. Especially for those of us who lived in single cells, you had the time to sit down and think, and we discovered that sitting down just to think is one of the best ways of keeping yourself fresh and able to address the problems facing you, and you had the opportunity, also, of examining your past. Nelson Mandela. What a man! What an attitude to problem! What kind of man will face this kind of challenges and still be bold enough to utter words like this? Only a Joseph in prison. The prison to him was a place to keep himself fresh and get new ideas. What many will see as a problem, he saw it as a golden opportunity to reflect. No wonder, when he came out of that prison, the problem that took him to prison couldn't stand him anymore. He grew so much on the inside that he crushed the problem that took him to prison. Dear reader, the world is in need of Josephs who are not afraid of problems. The world is in desperate need of men and women who have the right attitude towards problems. Those that were shot were shot. Those that spent most of their adult lives behind bars did. Those that dedicated their wealth and all they've worked for all through their youthful age to resolve one problem or the other did because they have an understanding of problems that most people don't. The common feature of everyone you've just read about and a whole lot of others which space will not permit me to write about is that they all ended up in greatness. The problems they solved were the key to their prominence. None of them lived a life of mediocrity afterwards. The world revolves around problems, and only those who take these problems head-on will be singled out for greatness. Unfortunately, we have not been taught this. We have been taught to survive. We have been taught that problems are bad. We have been told to run away from problems. But that is about to change. Nuggets. Show me anyone that is prominent, and I will prove to you that they are problem solvers. Show me any true leader, and I will show you a man that has mastered the art of problem resolution. Unless your hard work or faithfulness is directed to resolving problems, you might never be prominent. Unless you dedicate your life to resolving problems, we might never remember you. Unless you are skillful at finding answers, you are not ready for greatness. The world is in desperate need of men and women who have the right attitude towards problems. The world revolves around problems, and only those who take these problems head-on will be singled out for greatness. When you can do the common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. Chapter 3: The Survival Mentality. Imagine a world without problems. The doctor without the patient. The teacher without the students. The father without the child. The cook without a hungry man. The author without a topic to write on. Imagine a world with no hurdles or goals to achieve. Imagine a world without a single problem to solve. It's a lifeless world. It's a world where you can never find real satisfaction or happiness. We are built to conquer our environment, solve problems, achieve goals, and we find no real satisfaction or happiness in life without obstacles to conquer and goals to achieve. Maxwell Maltz. In remembering this quotation, my heart yearns for the people who have not come to understand that problems are shortcuts to prominence. My heart bleeds for people who still believe that problems are bad. Little did they know that the reason why we are here in the first instance is to solve problems. You are not needed if you are not going to be an expert in problem resolution. Your eyes solve a problem. Your ears solve a problem. You use your mouth to eat and drink, solving the problem of hunger and thirst. Your legs move you from one place to another. So is everything that makes up your whole body. They are solving one problem or the other. Therefore, it will only be logical to conclude that if everything in you solves a problem, then your whole being shouldn't be any different. You are built to conquer your environment. You are specially wired to solve problems. And until you begin to solve problems, you might never find real satisfaction or happiness in life. You are not needed if you are not going to be an expert in problem resolution, because you are sent to the world in the first place to resolve problems. The only reason why we need a doctor is because of diseases. The only reason why we need a teacher is because of ignorance. You are not here to survive. You are here to conquer. You are here to subdue. You are here to have dominion over problems and all of creation. This is evident in the biblical story of creation. 26 And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." 27 So God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. 28 And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Genesis 1:26-28 KJV. Therefore, if corruption has eaten deep into the system, it is a problem, but we have dominion. We have the ability to solve the problem. If an earthquake occurs, it is a problem, but we can't run away from it. If diseases come from microorganisms, we have been commanded to subdue them. Though the epidemic is a problem, but we have dominion over every living thing. You are not here to survive and escape from problems. You are here to fight injustice like Malala and Nelson Mandela did. You are here to rescue the economy of your nation like George Washington Carver. You are supposed to task your mind to find answers. You are here to find the cure and drugs to treat diseases like Alexandra Fleming, who discovered penicillin, did. If the problem has a name, you are not to run away or avoid it. Call it corruption. Call it racism. Call it terrorism. Name it. You've got to face it. Challenge it. Solve it. Find answers. Because you have the dominion, you are superior to any problem. This is the attitude of success. This is the mindset of world changers. This is the birthplace of greatness and prominence. This is what has always led me to think and question myself every time. I challenge myself to be a solution provider. It doesn't matter what topic. I just want to be a solution provider for every problem I find around me. That's why I have been able to write 300 books to the glory of God, and I want to write more than 1,000 books addressing different topics and helping people to become experts at problem solving. Develop yourself. I develop myself to become an expert and skillful in problem resolution. I push myself always in bringing answers. I challenge myself in supplying solutions to any given situation or circumstance. Dear reader, you've got to always question your mind. You have to apply your mind and make your mind work for you. Don't just exist on the earth. Don't just walk about, live to solve problems. You've got to think and come up with ideas that solve problems. It is wise to direct your anger towards problems, not people, to focus your energies on answers, not excuses. William Arthur Ward. This is what differentiates us from the animals. We are problem solvers. You have the ability to solve any problem facing you, and that is your shortcut to prominence. Animals are only concerned about what they will eat, drink, sleep, wake up, and sometimes they mate. Then, the cycle goes on. They want to survive. But is this the essence of God's investment in us meant for? The investment of God in you is for a greater purpose, which is problem resolution. This is God's plan and God's way of taking you from mediocrity to prominence. Embrace problems today, my dear brother. Welcome problems with joy, my dear sister. It is your shortcut to prominence. Instinctive living. Helen Keller, 1880-1968, was an American author, political activist, and campaigner for deaf and blind charities. Helen became deaf and blind as a young child and had to struggle to overcome her dual disability. However, she became the first deaf-blind person to attain a bachelor's degree and became an influential campaigner for social, political, and disability issues. Her public profile helped to stigmatize blindness and deafness, and she was seen as a powerful example of someone overcoming difficult circumstances. This is a practical example of living beyond your own very needs and reaching out to be the solution to others. Helen Keller was deaf and blind, but much more, she gave hope and a reason to live to every deaf and blind individual after her. There was something in her much more than her own survival. She became a beacon of hope to the hopeless. This is what makes us different, the ability to solve problems. What makes us different from animals is the fact that we could provide solutions. It is the fact that we could resolve issues and problems. That is what makes us to be superior. Instincts are defined as non-learned, inherited, genetic patterns of behavior generally ensuring the survival of a species. Common examples include spinning a web by a spider. A kangaroo rat instantly performs an automatic escape jump maneuver when it hears the sound of a striking rattlesnake, even if it has never encountered a snake before. Nest building and other maternal activities, migration patterns of animals, social behavior in pack animals, insects, animal courtship behaviors including monogamous mating, etc. Instinctive behavior is observed more frequently in primitive life forms, while more complex mammals like humans depend mostly on learned, i.e., cerebral behavior than instincts. We are not supposed to be living by instinct alone. Animals are the ones that are created to live by instinct. To live by instinct means caring only for what to eat, what to drink, where to sleep, and who to mate with. If that is your primary concern, then you are never ever going to be prominent. You will never be remembered. I'm sorry, but that is the raw truth. Instincts are things that are natural demands of your flesh. Instinct is what you naturally need. Why do you want to eat? This is not because you program your mind to eat. You don't need your mind to eat. You don't need your brain to eat. So, if you are functioning and doing things that you don't need your mind for, that is basic instinctive or animalistic living. The reason why you want to eat is because you get hungry. That is instinct. You don't need your brain for this. Why do you want to dress? This is because you feel shame. This is also instinctive or elementary thinking. Animals live instinctively, and that is because they care for themselves alone. You shouldn't be bothered about yourself alone. Solve problems. There is more to life than just being bothered about what you will eat and where you will sleep. This is not the way humans are supposed to be living. The human mind. Then the question is, if you are a human being, why then do you need your mind? Why did God give you brain? Is it just to occupy the skull? Why do you have the ability to think? This is because you need your mind for challenging tasks. You need your mind to resolve complex issues. You need your brain for challenging problems, to challenge your mind, to cause your brain to work, and to cause your mind to provide solutions. You need your mind to calculate things, to think ahead, and to come up with complex solutions. The lizard brain is hungry, scared, angry, and horny. The lizard brain only wants to eat and be safe. The lizard brain will fight to the death, if it has to, but would rather run away. It likes a vendetta and has no trouble getting angry. The lizard brain cares what everyone else thinks because status in the tribe is essential to its survival. A squirrel runs around looking for nuts, hiding from foxes, listening for predators, and watching for other squirrels. The squirrel does this because that's all it can do. All the squirrel has is a lizard brain. The only correct answer to why did the chicken cross the road is because its lizard brain told it to. Wild animals are wild because the only brain they possess is a lizard brain. The lizard brain is not merely a concept. It's real, and it's living on the top of your spine, fighting for your survival. But of course, survival and success is not the same thing. The lizard brain is the reason you're afraid, the reason you don't do all the art you can, the reason you don't ship when you can. The lizard brain is the source of the resistance. Seth Godin. So if the only thing you are thinking about is how to provide for your wife, for your husband, and children, that is instinctively living. The survival instinct is responsible for this. Animals care for their families alone. They only care for their species. They do things that are instinctively necessary to be done for their own survival. How human are you? I hope you are beginning to discover what a tragedy it is when you are been told, at times even in most of our churches, that all you need is a breakthrough. And such statements as "you will get your miracle today." It is all about the survival mentality. They are not tasking you to provide solutions to the daunting problems of your nation. They are not tasking you to think and use your mind to provide solutions to the problems of electricity, infrastructure, hunger, and poverty. They are not tasking you to proffer solutions to these problems daunting the nation and the world at large. They are not tasking you to go beyond your instinct and stimulus. They are not tasking you to forget about egocentric desires and begin to think about the larger good of humanity. They are not telling us to do anything like that. They reduce us. They reduce our value. They reduce our essence. They reduce our significance. And they just reduce us to becoming church members alone. They only reduce us to just come to church and sit down. They only reduce us to just go to a job, get a salary, and bring tithes and offering. The ability to task our brain to work is what makes us human. We are superior to animals because of our mind. How much you apply your brain determines how human you are. To the level you apply your brain is what determines how human you are. To the level you function out of your mind is what determines how human you are. That's not what we are built for. Apart from instinct, animals also live by reflexes or stimulus. To live by reflexes means responding to your feelings. So if I feel like going to church, I dress up and go. If I feel like doing good, I do it. If I feel like smiling, I smile. All these are reflexes, and that's what animals do. A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. John A. Shedd. Though we have reflexes, but we are not supposed to be driven by it. Though it's less demanding to live by instincts, stimulus, and reflexes, but that's not what we are built for. You are meant to solve problems and live beyond you. The third is a stimulus. Animals live by stimulus. This means you are stimulated before you do something. When you are stimulated, you do it. And many of us are not living by our own standards or goals. We are not living by our own vision and mission. We are waiting for stimulus. We are waiting to be stimulated by something, either by punishment, reward, or love. These are the animal standards of living: instinct, reflexes, and stimulus. For example, somebody hates you, and you hate the person too. Somebody loves you, and you love the person back. Somebody smiles at you, and you smile back. All these are what animals do. The wise respond. The foolish react. The wise think and then act. The foolish act and then regret. Unknown. If you beat a dog, it reacts with a shout and runs away from you, but if you gently stroke the same dog on the head, it will wag the tails. Those are stimulus, and we as humans are not supposed to live that way. You are supposed to be living a much higher life. And this higher life is a life dedicated to goals, standards, and principles directed to problem solving. What are you going to be remembered for? Adam and Eve are good examples. They solved the problem of extending God's kingdom on earth, and that is why they are still prominent today. And their prominence is tied to the problem they resolved. Your prominence depends on the problem you will resolve on earth. You are going to be remembered either by the problems you solved or by the problem you started. You will be remembered either by the problem you resolved or by the problem you created. Let's take a look at two different leaders who are remembered for two different things. While Adolf Hitler is remembered for the problems he caused, Abraham Lincoln, on the other hand, is being celebrated for the problem he solved. History has remembered the kings and warriors because they destroyed. Art has remembered the people because they created. William Morris. Adolf Hitler, 1889 to 1945, the leader of Nazi Germany from 1934 to 1945. I want war. To me, all means will be right. My motto is not don't, whatever you do, annoy the enemy. My motto is destroy him by all and any means. I am the one. Who will wage the war? Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was the leader of Nazi Germany from 1934 to 1945. He initiated World War II and oversaw fascist policies that resulted in millions of deaths. Born in Austria in 1889, Adolf Hitler rose to power in German politics as leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, also known as the Nazi Party. Hitler was Chancellor of Germany from 1933 to 1945, serving as a dictator for the bulk of his time in power. His policies precipitated World War II and the genocide perpetrated against Jewish communities known as the Holocaust. With defeat on the horizon, Hitler committed suicide with wife Eva Braun on April 30, 1945, in his Berlin bunker. Adolf Hitler has become infamous as a personification of human evil. His name is inexorably linked to the Holocaust and extermination of Jews and other undesirables. Over 6 million Jewish people died in various concentration and extermination camps. He is also seen as the principal cause of the Second World War, in which over 70 million people died. Yet, in the midst of the Great Depression, he captivated a nation with his mixture of charm, xenophobia, and almost supernatural allure. Hitler's political programs had brought about a world war, leaving behind a devastated and impoverished Eastern and Central Europe, including Germany. His policies inflicted human suffering on an unprecedented scale, and resulted in the death of tens of millions of people, including more than 20 million in the Soviet Union and 6 million Jews in Europe. Hitler's defeat marked the end of Germany's dominance in European history and the defeat of fascism. On the other hand is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, 1809 to 1865, the 16th President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. He preserved the Union during the U.S. Civil War and brought about the emancipation of slaves. As a lawyer, Abraham developed a great capacity for quick thinking and oratory. In this House divided speech, Lincoln gave a prophetic utterance to the potential for slavery to divide the nation. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure, permanently, half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. Either the opponents of slavery will arrest the further spread of it, and place it where the public mind shall rest in the belief that it is in the course of ultimate extinction, or its advocates will push it forward, till it shall become lawful in all the states, old as well as new, north as well as south. To Lincoln, slavery was fundamentally wrong. Whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on him personally. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln issued his memorable Emancipation Proclamation that declared the freedom of slaves within the Confederacy. All persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free, and the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. I'm sure you definitely want to be remembered as the one who made the world a better place. I'm certain that you prefer to be the voice for the voiceless and the feet to the crippled. Definitely, I know you wouldn't pick up this book if you are not ready to be a problem solver. I'm certain that you don't want to be a part of the problem, but the solution to the problem. It is only the problem you resolve that determines your prominence. It is only the problem you resolve that determines your significance. You are only remembered by the problem you choose to resolve. So, what problem are you living to resolve? Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Albert Einstein. Leave a positive impact. Life is beyond survival. It is beyond living for personal gains. Task your mind to proffer solution. Be a beacon of hope to the hopeless. Shun the survival mentality. Be a problem solver like your Heavenly Father. In the next chapter, I'll be showing you practically how to secure your place in history, and how God solves and responds to problems, and this is exactly what He also wants you to do. Remember, you are not needed if you are not going to be an expert in problem resolution, because you are sent to the world in the first place to resolve problems. Blessings. Nuggets. Imagine a world with no hurdles or goals to achieve. Imagine a world without a single problem to solve. It's a lifeless world. It's a world where you can never find real satisfaction or happiness. You are built to conquer your environment. You are specially wired to solve problems. And until you begin to solve problems, you might never find real satisfaction or happiness in life. You are not here to survive. You are here to conquer. You are here to subdue. You are here to have dominion over problems and all of creation. If the problem has a name, you are not to run away or avoid it. The investment of God in you is for a greater purpose, which is problem resolution. This is God's plan and God's way of taking you from mediocrity to prominence. What makes us different from animals is the fact that we could provide solutions. It is the fact that we could resolve issues and problems. That is what makes us to be superior. To live by instinct means caring only for what to eat, what to drink, where to sleep, and who to mate with. If that is your primary concern, then you are never ever going to be prominent. The ability to task our brain to work is what makes us human. You are going to be remembered either by the problems you solved or by the problem you started. You will be remembered either by the problem you resolved or by the problem you created. Chapter 4: Secure your place in history. By now, I believe you understand that your significance in life is tied to the problems you solve. By now, you should agree with me that the only reason why anyone needs you is because of the problems you solve for them. I dare you to answer this question honestly. Have you just been surviving and trying to make a living? Has your life been about yourself alone? Is it just me, myself, and I? Do you live by your instincts alone? If you are a friend, you are solving the problem of companionship. If you are a father, you are solving the problem of provision. If you are a mother, you are solving the problem of care. If you are a teacher, you are solving the problem of ignorance. If you are a cook, you are solving the problem of hunger. If you are a pastor, you are solving the problem of salvation. If you are a doctor, you are solving the problem of ill health. Likewise, everything in your life is solving one problem or the other. Your phone is solving the problem of communication. Your wristwatch is solving a problem, it tells you time. Your bed is also solving a problem. It helps you to relax when you are tired. Money solves the problem of transaction. If they don't solve any problem, you won't need them. Similarly, you are not needed if you are not going to solve any problem. Note, all the things I listed above, both the inanimate and the animate, none is solving a problem for itself. It is always about others. A teacher teaches others. A doctor treats others. Your wristwatch is there for you. Your bed does not rest, so it's there for you to rest on it. What problem have you decided to solve for others? Are you going to solve any problem at all, or you will leave this world without any impact? When will you be challenged to do something of significance and prominence? Will the world be glad you came? You will only attain prominence when you decide to be an answer, a solution, and hope to the cries of many. Your greatness is measured by the problems you solve. Be a problem solver. Consciously seek out ways to solve problems. Problems, it's your shortcut to prominence. He solved a problem. Let's take a look at this scripture together. 21 And they went into Capernaum, and straightway on the Sabbath day he entered into the synagogue and taught. 22 And they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority, and not as the scribes. 23 And there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, 24 saying, Let us alone, what have we to do with thee, thou Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee who thou art, the Holy One of God. 25 And Jesus rebuked him, saying, Hold thy peace, and come out of him. 26 And when the unclean spirit had torn him and cried with a loud voice, he came out of him. 27 And they were all amazed, insomuch that they questioned among themselves, saying, What thing is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority commandeth he even the unclean spirits, and they do obey him. 28 And immediately his fame spread abroad throughout all the region round about Galilee. Mark 1:21-28 KJV. We are just seeing an example of relevance and prominence here. Jesus appeared there, and in a day his fame spread abroad. He has been in the wilderness preparing himself to solve problems. He has fasted for 40 days, listening to God and doing all he needed to do to be a solution provider. For 40 days, being tempted by the devil. And he ate nothing during those days, and when they ended, he was hungry. Luke 4:2, amp. In Mark 1:28, his fame, his prominence spread throughout the entire region round about Galilee. His fame is still spreading up till today. And the fame of Jesus will still spread tomorrow. Glory to God. You know why? He solved a problem. You are going to be remembered only for the problems you solved or the ones you created. Your fame and your significance will be tied to the problem you resolved. If you solve the problem of your society or country, even if it's just one problem, that will secure your place in history. It will secure your prominence in time and in eternity. It will secure your fame because you resolve one problem. Solving problems, conquering challenges, finding answers is what gives you a sense of living. Until you dedicate your life to problem resolution, you've not started living. Greatness will still be far-fetched until you decide to devote your wealth, time and resources to solving one problem or the other. Be on guard. Listen, my dear friend, anything that takes your focus off problem resolution is a threat to your greatness. Anything that does not allow you find solutions to problems is directly fighting your significance in life. Anything that drains your energy off solving problems reduces your value. It reduces your essence. It will limit you to a life of mediocrity. So, be on the guard. Unfortunately, religion reduces your value. Religion reduces us when it doesn't challenge us to go and resolve problems. It reduces us when it doesn't challenge us to go and resolve issues, to go and bring solutions and answers to the daunting problems of our age. Religion reduces our significance. It's a shame. Religion is the opium of the masses. Karl Marx. A greater tragedy is the fact that our churches today are filled with people who are only concerned with meeting their instinctive desires alone. The people in our churches today only care about the instinctive desires of their lives. They come to church to pray for provision, what to eat. They pray for better job opportunities. They pray for miracle money and the likes. I'm afraid that our churches don't talk about all these things. I'm afraid that our churches only talk about our instinct. They keep us at the animalistic level of living. They don't talk to us about things that really make us humans. They keep us at the level of feelings. They keep us on the level of reflexes. They keep us on the level of instincts. Any religion that professes to be concerned about the souls of men and is not concerned about the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them is a spiritually moribund religion awaiting burial. Martin Luther King, Jr. We are not told that our problems are the challenges that bring out the creativity and innovative power of God in us. We are never told to face our challenges head-on. We are only told to depend on God. They say, God will do it. But what makes us to be in the likeness and image of God is the fact that we have the ability to solve problems. God started by resolving problems. He came from heaven and saw darkness, everything was dark and void. That is a problem right there. It was a challenge. 1 In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. 2 And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Genesis 1:1-2 KJV. And what did God do? Did he just sit in heaven to enjoy his problem-free life? Is that what God did? No. God is not so irresponsible. Our God is not an irresponsible God. My God is not an irresponsible God. He doesn't run away from problems. He runs to them. He challenges himself to solve them. As a responsible God, he saw it as necessary, he saw it as something that he must take upon himself to face the challenge of his day. And the challenge of that hour was to get rid of that darkness. He took it upon himself as a challenge to remove the darkness and to bring shape and form to the earth, which is the beautiful earth that you see today. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Genesis 1:16, KJV. The answer God came up with is the sun and the moon that we are enjoying today. The answer did not only bring light on earth, it also brought life to plants and animals. The only way you resemble God is by solving problems. Do you resemble God? Don't you tell me you are in His image if you are not doing the same thing God is doing? Don't you tell me you are God's image if you are not looking for problems to solve? Don't you tell me you are created in His image if you are not doing the same thing your Father did? Don't you tell me you are His image if you are not copying Him? Don't you tell me you are God's child if you are not doing what your Father does? Don't you tell me you resemble Him if you are not acting like Him? 26 And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. 27 So God created man in His own image, in the image of God created He him, male and female created He them. Genesis 1:26-27, KJV. Do you resemble God? You are created in His image and likeness, but do you resemble your Maker? God is a creator. What are you creating? What have you created? He is an answer provider. What things are you finding answers to? He is a solution giver. What things are you giving solutions to? Where is the list of the problems of your age? Where is the list of the problems in your country? Where are the lists of the problems of your time, generation? What are the problems facing your town or city? What are the problems that are challenging you? What are the problems that concern you? What are the issues that concern you? What things are you doing to bring about answers? What things are you doing to bring about solutions to these problems? That's what God did and He's still doing today. That's why He is the answer. That's why He is the Creator. And He made you and me in His image to be co-creators with Him. Listen, my dear friend, you only have one shot at life. You only have one chance to live. You will leave this world soon, and you will be forgotten if you fail to be an answer to at least a problem in your time. Your shortcut to prominence is problems. Your shortcut to prominence is problems. Your shortcut to prominence is problems. To leave a lasting legacy, be an answer to a problem. You will be forgotten and will never be remembered if you don't begin to live to find solutions and answers right now. You must ask yourself, what area and where do you want to bring answers to? You must become an expert in bringing solutions and answers. If you don't do that, you will die and you will be forgotten. God is a solution provider. That's His nature, and I suppose we are His children. I suppose He is our Father. How do you resemble God? Tell me how you resemble Him. Do you resemble Him in providing answers? Do you resemble Him in supplying solutions? How are you equipping yourself to be able to do that? How do you push yourself? How do you educate yourself? How do you work on yourself to be able to bring a lasting solution to a problem? Will you be able to lift up your head and quit just living for yourself and your family? Will you be able to stop living that selfish and egocentric life? Models to emulate. Enoch in Genesis 5:24 resolved the problem of man walking with God. He made us understand that it is possible for human beings to discover and to walk with God on the earth by faith. That is the problem Enoch resolved for us. And thanks to him we know that it is possible for human beings to walk with God on earth today. Abel, Cain's brother in Genesis 4, resolved the problem of serving and sacrificing to God. He showed us what it means to truly sacrifice for God. Abraham in Genesis 17:5 started a new generation, and through his example, we came to understand that a human being could start a new generation of people. By faith, Abraham believed God and inherited a distant city, a new nation that is yet to be built. One man became a blessing to the whole world. That is the problem that Abraham resolved for us. Every human being that is prominent, everyone that you remember got there as a direct result of the problem they resolved. My dear friend, what problem are you going to resolve? What problem are you going to be prominent for? What problem are you going to be remembered for? Sarah, Abraham's wife, resolved the problem of giving birth to a child in hopelessness. She became a beacon of hope to a lot of women looking for the fruit of the womb. When all hope was gone, she believed God with her husband and brought forth a child at an old age. In Exodus 3:10, God was speaking to Moses about his mission. Therefore, come now, and I will send you to Pharaoh, and then bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Moses resolved the problem of captivity. He resolved the problem of how a nation could be delivered. He showed us that a whole nation could be delivered from whatsoever bondage that may exist. He showed us that God could use one man to deliver his promise to a people. He resolved the problem to make us know that it is possible. It is possible that we all could be deliverers of nations. Bill Gates resolved the problem of personal computers. He made it possible that every household has access to personal computers. Steve Jobs of Apple Computers resolved the problem of smartphones, making communication a lot easier. Now, a good number of families around the world owns a personal computer or carry them around in smartphones. My dear friend, if you have to go to school, make sure you are educated to be a problem solver. If you have to go to church, make sure you are been tasked to solve problems. If you have to learn anything, learn how to solve problems. In whatever you do, be an expert in resolving problems. That is your only security for stardom. That is your shortcut to prominence. You might just be the one to bring a solution to the problem of female child education and premarital pregnancy in your country. It may be to bring a solution to the stigmatization of barren women. It could also be the solution to religious intolerance in your country. Whatever your burden might be, it should be set before you as a goal. Whatever you have a passion for should be your standard for living.